Okay. All right. Are we recording?
Yes.
We are good to record?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Robert Garcia, Board Chair for the Winston-Salem Transit Authority. It is June 18th, and we are here for our Winston-Salem Transit Authority Board meeting. Due to the state of emergency, all members of today's meeting are participating remotely. That is our official statement. Please be noted that let it be noted that we are recording this, and it is official according to our city government parameters and regulations. So thank you for joining us today. I hope this phone call finds you well. I'm sure that we're all very much getting used to, or maybe not getting used to, Zoom calls. And saying, I feel like it's like Hollywood Squares or, the Brady Bunch with our faces up on squares there. So thank you for joining us. And again, if there's any technical difficulties that you're having, we understand. For those of you that want to put in a question or anything, there is a chat box at the bottom that you can write in. And certainly Ms. Woodson and myself will be monitoring. And or if you just maybe just raise your hand and we'll see it and we can say, okay, Mr. Clark or Dr. Fleer, I see you have your hand raised. You have a question, and we will go from there. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, WSTA staff members for joining us and members of the city. So a safety message. I know we always like to start off with a safety message, and how can we not just bring up the fact of this pandemic and to continue to be safe in our environments, whether it is at work, whether it's at the grocery store, wherever it might be. As many of you have read in the newspapers and probably seen on the local news, we're still, I don't think we found our peak yet, and we're certainly not on the decline yet. And by no stretch of the imagination do I think people are trying to scare us, but they're just, that's the data, and data speaks very loudly in this case. So please continue washing your hands. That's so important, washing your hands and wearing those masks. I know that there's more masks available. It's a little bit easier. I think hand sanitizer has become a little bit more readily available. I know the Clorox wipes and things like this is kind of tough, but I think some people have resorted to making their own type of solution there. So that's the safety message. Public comment. We always have time in our agenda for public comment. And if I'm not, I'll give it 1 second. I don't believe anyone has joined us for public comment, but let me just pause for just 1 second. Okay, there's no public comment. And before moving forward, again, for those of you that heard me just a second ago with Ms. Woodson, we're going to go. We've got a lot of action items. We added some more things. You will please bear with us. Ms. Woodson and I, she's going to be driving the screen in front of you. So please bear with us. A lot of resolutions, but we're going to kind of go backwards so that we can have a quorum join us. As many of you know, you got the email, of course, and then you saw it in the local paper about one of our staff members that came down with COVID-19. And I know, and I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Woodson to speak on that. Ms. Woodson?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Donna Woodson, General Manager for Winston-Salem Transit Authority. And thank you, Dr. Fleer. I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia. I'm looking at Dr. Fleer's name. So I wanted to brief you all again on the positive test that we had at Winston-Salem Transit Authority. We were made aware on yesterday of a positive test, and it is TransDev's policy, as well as governed by the CDC's direction, that we acknowledge and make sure that any employees and all employees are made aware of a positive test. We do that by way of a memorandum, and that was released to all of our employees immediately prior to a press release.
Yes, I've got you. I've got volume this time. Thank you.
We can mute the. You can make sure we mute. I'm not sure who that was.
It's
It sounded
Jeanette
like Miss Wilson.
Donnelly on. Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear us?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, Ms. Lawson, I was just giving the board and the members an update on the recent notification of the positive test for WSTA. We made all the employees aware of the positive test. We do feel at WSTA that we've been fortunate. We've been going through what we know of the COVID period and the pandemic for at least 3 months. And WSTA has just had experienced our first positive test. And we believe that is due to all of the necessary precautions that we put in place, from additional cleaning staff, additional sanitation and disinfecting. We have a requirement for all of our employees to wear masks unless we're medically not able to do so. We have all the PPE available to our operators, employees, as far as gloves, and just cleaning and all the necessary things, and all the posters from Trans Day of the City of Winston-Salem, CDC, Health and Human Services, as it relates to WWW, wait, wear, and wash. So we're trying to make sure that we do everything we possibly can to continue in this pattern in hopes that we will not get another positive test. As everyone saw, we did put the press release out yesterday to make the media aware and any of our passengers so that they will be aware as well. We have the social distancing in place on our vehicles. So we feel that we're doing taking the appropriate measures and precautions to make sure that we keep ourselves as well as our clients safe. If there's any questions, thank you. You're muted, Mr. Garcia, you're muted.
My goodness, I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, Ms. Woodson. I know, and we all know that you've taken the measures, and even before that, you were taking you and the staff were taking great measures to keep everybody safe. You know, the entrance and exit on the back of the bus as opposed by the driver. So I can't, I got to believe that we've taken every precaution. We'll continue to take every precaution. So thank you very, very much. And I know you'll keep us abreast of the condition. I know we cannot reveal names, but we certainly have him in our thoughts, him or her in our thoughts, and that they might get better. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. King has joined us also. If I saw him in the participants list.
Yes. So
okay.
We have a full board.
I think he went by phone. I don't think he's got video. But Mr. King, if you can hear me, thank you for joining us, sir. Okay, now we can go directly to the action items, Ms. Woodson. The first one, of course, is the approval of the April 30th board meeting minutes. So for those of you, I know you got your packet in. It was a number of pages, but certainly take just a few minutes if you'd like to review some of those minutes, and if there's any questions, edits, mistakes, or additions that you would like to add, please bring them before the board. We'll take just a minute to look those over.
I move their approval when appropriate.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the board minutes from the April 30th meeting. Do we have a second?
Second, Willie Clark, second.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. We have a second. All those in favor of approving the April 30th minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Approval of the April 30th minutes has been approved. Thank you very much.
Anna, I hate to interrupt, but you may need to call the roll and get their vote that way. This is Tanique.
Oh, okay, Tanique, thank you. So let's do a roll call. Dr. Fleer, that was
Aye.
Mr. King.
Aye.
Mr.
Present.
Clark.
I'm sorry. This is Jeanette. I vote aye.
Okay. Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Denise, for bringing that up for us. Okay, the next resolution, approving Winston-Salem Transit Authority's expressive activity policy. Ms. Woodson, if you would like to elaborate on that policy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. As you recall, in the last board meeting in April, I presented you with the actual expressive activity policy that was created by the WSTA staff as well as the city legal department. This policy is actually, we're presenting it to the board for approval so that we can maintain and conduct the time frame for any expressive activity that's taking place at the transportation center downtown. This is just basically a policy that limits different types of activities and expressive activities as far as written material, petitions, signatures, politicians, demonstrations, any type of solicitation. So it's not that we're prohibiting it. We just want to make sure that it's scheduled in a timely manner so that we can contain it. And this was a recommendation, and we followed through with this and had assistance with creating the policy with the legal department. So on behalf of WSTA, we're asking that the board do solely agree to adopt the policy and help and support this for the transportation center.
And Ms. Woodson, that being said, providing we're not going to keep people from doing it, we just want to make sure that they follow certain guidelines and permission to come onto the property. For instance, I know with everything going on right now, and I have seen a lot of things happening around town, but also too with the elections coming up and so forth. A lot of things people like to bring over to the Clark Campbell Center, but just to do it properly. Am I correct?
That's correct, sir. This is basically not to prohibit people from expressing their activities and making the public aware. We know that the transportation center is a prime location located downtown. So, and it generates a lot of publicity. So we know that people are going to often come there for various reasons. We even have people to come for public speaking, job fairs, all sorts of things that actually help and benefit the city. We just want to be able to have a log so we can maintain a schedule to make sure that we don't exert our activities that take place at the transportation center to interrupt services.
Okay. Okay. Board, any questions?
This is Jack Flair. Did you have any activity related to the protest marches at the center?
We had them scheduled for the transportation center on one evening. They did circle, and they were at 6th and Trade and Liberty. So they circled around the transportation center. They did not come on the property. They were in the street and they were on the sidewalks, but they were peaceful. So it was nothing that disrupted our service.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
I move its adoption.
A second.
And please state your name. I know it's Dr. Flair, but for the records.
I'm sorry, Jack Flair. I move its adoption.
We
Jeanette
have a
Lawson
motion
Jackson,
to approve.
second.
Do we have a second?
Jeanette Lawson Jackson, second.
We have a second. All those in favor of the resolution approving WSTA's expressive activity policy signify by saying aye with your name. Aye, Robert Garcia.
Aye, Jack Flair.
Willie Clark, aye.
Jeanette Lawson Jackson, aye. I think I heard Mr. King too.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have passed the resolution for WSTA's expressive activity policy. Thank you, board. Moving on to the next resolution, authorizing the city manager to sign a change order with Call 24 Security Services for additional cameras for Winston-Salem Authority facilities on the 2018 contract agreement between the city and Call 24 Security. Ms. Woodson?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. In 2018, the city of Winston-Salem entered into a contract agreement with Call 24 Security Services to install safety and security for public safety all over the city of Winston-Salem at various city buildings. From that same agreement with the Winston-Salem Transit Authority, we have decided to, if the board so approves, to join that same contract language and that same contract in order to provide additional cameras at the Transportation Center, the admin building located at 1060 North Trade Street, as well as the maintenance facility. We are asking the board to approve this contract with this agreement to add additional 67 high-resolution cameras all over our facilities. And it will help with the security, and it also help with our current pandemic, with identifying social distancing and being able to address that by way of security. The funding source for this will come from the CARES Act that was awarded to the city of Winston-Salem in 2015-2020 for the pandemic. So we are coming before you this afternoon to ask the board to approve this agreement so that we can install the new safety and security system.
And Ms. Woodson, I happen to notice it's a number of additional cameras. Am I correct? 67?
Yes.
And that's split between the administrative offices and the actual transportation center?
Yes, it's between all three facilities. We'll have, of course, the majority of the, I think it's 37, if I'm stating that correctly, 34 or 37 that will be installed at the transportation center itself. And then 21 at the admin building, and the rest will be in the maintenance facility.
Okay, and I believe the next page, if I'm not mistaken, has the actual cost.
Yes.
Okay.
So the cost of the total three facilities is $134,921.11. That's for the total agreement for all three facilities. In addition, excuse me, to that, if we so desire, we could, this would include the current maintenance agreement for the first year. If we decide that we need a year 2 and year 3, the resolution also verifies or states the additional cost per year at $4,800 for each additional year of maintenance support.
From a standpoint, was this, and as it stated, because they handle other city buildings, this was a recommendation, and then the B is, and it's being funded through that CARES Act. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So this by no means affects our budget?
Not at all. All of the CARES Act funding that we received from this federal government was $12,389,000 and some odd dollars. And any projects that we utilize those funds for are 100% funded. So there's no local match. So it does not, it doesn't affect our budget in no means.
Okay. Fellow board members, any questions?
This is Jack Blair. The way I figured, that's about $2,400 per camera.
Yes.
Is that a competitive price?
From the previous bids that we have received prior to my coming along, to be honest, yes, that is competitive, and the quality of this contractor, Call 24, these new cameras, they're 360. They have a roving camera, so they circle around, and the quality is excellent. The system that they have to go back, it records. Right now, our current camera system, it only records up to 30 days. These you can retract information or go back and pull data from months, previous months. John, the assistant GM, and myself were able to view the current system that the city is using. And as I stated in the resolution, it allows the Winston-Salem Police Department to have full access to our cameras, which is extremely helpful for, for security purposes, and, being able to obtain detain anyone that they're looking for. It has a lot of different features that are beneficial to security and the public safety. So it's really a really good system that we currently have, have an opening. We have an agreement with the city on, and they utilize it. They're upgrading to some of the cameras that we're actually having with this resolution approved.
So are they both interior and exterior at the center?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of surveillance.
It is a lot of surveillance. We need that. We have a lot of transportation, a lot of traffic at that transportation center.
Will that cover the second floor also too there at the station?
Yes, the stairwells. We currently do not have cameras in the stairwell, so then that's where security apprehends, detains people. So we'll have cameras in there. We'll have cameras upstairs on each floor and additional
Okay.
cameras in the bays. The high-tech cameras are going to be in the bays, which that was agreed upon with we're doing the walkthrough inspection. So yes, every floor would be under surveillance.
Great. Any further questions?
I move for the approval.
And that would,
Mr. King.
that was Mr. King. Mr. King has a motion to approve the resolution approving the city manager to sign a change order for product and services with the Call 24 security. Do we have a second?
Willie Clark, second.
We have a second. All those in favor, please signify one at a time with your name. Approving the resolution for the city manager to sign a change order for product and services with Call 24 security. Robert Garcia, aye.
Jack Flair, aye.
King, aye.
Awesome Jackson, aye.
Okay. I believe we got everybody on that. Am I correct, Ms. Woodson?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll move to the next. Resolution authorizing the general manager to remove vehicles from the active fleet. Many of you that have been on the board for a number of years, this is something that we do on a regular basis. Well, not a regular, but on a yearly or two-year basis. Ms. Woodson, would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, briefly, as you stated, this is something that when we have our buses or our vans that meet or exceed the useful life with mileage or years of service, that we will bring this to the board for approval to enter into our surplus and disposal process of the city of Winston-Salem. So we have the vehicles listed here are the Nova vehicles, buses that have exceeded their useful life and miles and years. So we're asking that the board approve us to enter these into disposal with the city of Winston-Salem's policy.
I move their approval. Jack Flair.
We have we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
King.
Willie Clark, second.
Mr. Clark, second. All those in favor of the resolution approving Worcester surplus bus list for disposal process, signify by saying aye. Robert Garcia, aye.
Jack Flair,
King,
aye.
Awesome Jackson, aye.
We have those opposed, like sign. The resolution authorizing the general manager to remove the vehicles from the active fleet has been approved. And just a sidebar note, if you don't know, the city takes care of these, and then there's an auction that's held that the city holds, not WSTA, for these set vehicles.
Yes,
So
sir.
just in case you're wondering where these buses that John has been taking care of for all these years goes, that's what happens to them. Our next resolution, authorizing the general manager to enter into a contract with Forsyth County for the provision of transportation services for the elderly and disabled transportation assistance program, otherwise known the abbreviation ETAP.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Again, this is something that we actually receive funds from annually. And I do apologize, don't have the dollar amount tonight. Today we were waiting to get that information, but the county has had some delays in that. But every year we ask that the board approve me to enter into this agreement to accept funds for the elderly and disabled transportation assistance program. This just enables our elderly and disabled community to have fare free transportation to and from the programs, you know, for the day programs for the elderly, the food programs and different things of that nature. So once I receive that funding amount, I will provide the board with that information. We just ask if we could have the board to approve our signature in agreement to this contract with Forsyth County.
Question at that program.
Ms. Woodson, do you have an amount that we received last year for this program?
Last year, if I'm not mistaken, it was 120 some thousand, somewhere around in there. It was a little less than wait a minute, it may have been 187,000. I think it was about 187,000. I'm still like I said, I'm waiting for Forsyth County to respond with that dollar amount. Once I receive that, I will make sure that we get that the amount for this year, because it was reduced from last year's distribution.
Okay.
It was a reduction. Yes, sir, ma'am.
Any further questions?
I move its adoption. Jack Fleer.
We have a, okay, and we have a second by Ms. Lawson, did I hear correctly?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. All those in favor of the resolution authorizing the general manager to enter into a contract for the EdTech program signify by saying aye. Robert Garcia, aye.
Willie
Jack
Clark,
Fleer, aye.
Lawson Jackson, aye.
Keith King, aye.
Those opposed, like sign. We have approved the resolution authorizing our general manager to enter into the contract for the EdTech program. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to the next resolution. The resolution approving office furniture to be used at Union Station.
Okay, for this one, I'm going to let Ms. McCullough expound on the resolution approving the office furniture at Union Station. And this one, if you would, if you'll look at my screen, the resolution that's included in your packet has been revised. We have, the DOT has received some, the amounts and the suppliers that was not on the original resolution. So I will share my screen and so that you can see the updates and the revised resolution.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Garcia, Chairman and members of the committee. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This item relates to moving DOT staff to Union Station. Union Station, as you all may be aware, is property that the city has purchased to be a multimodal transportation center. And a part of the overall plans were to move some transportation staff into that facility. Our signal system staff is already housed down on the track level of the facility. And so the plans are to move the rest of the DOT staff there using the CARES Act funding. So we do apologize for getting this information updated to you late, but we just opened bids on yesterday. The bids were open for the furniture. The total amount came to $180,956, which was almost $100,000 less than what we estimated our bids to come in. As you can see in the update, the furniture was bid out in 8 groups for different furniture types, from workstations to chairs and tables. And based upon the bids that we received, I think there were 16 contractors or suppliers that provided bids. We chose the lowest in each group. And so what you see there is the list of the low bidders meeting the requirements, and our recommendation to approve contracts with each of these suppliers for the different types of furniture that they would be providing for us. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I had, when you referred to the Department of Transportation, the DOT, as opposed to just WSTA being there, is that including some of our staff and some of other transportation agencies?
So right now, the plant, there are no WSTA staff scheduled to be at Union Station, but Union Station will serve as one of the, and does serve as one of the available bus stops for transit riders. Long-term, if rail should come back, high-speed rail should come back through Winston-Salem, then there would be additional upfit to the building to allow for passengers to be able to catch the train from that facility also. And then if we are also successful in bringing streetcar to Winston-Salem, then we would also use that facility as one of the hub locations for streetcar. The reason this is coming to this board is that we are using some of the federally approved CARES Act funding to fund this relocation of staff in that transit or multimodal facility. The funding that was used for the initial purchase of the building and the initial phases of upkeep were also transit funds used for those purposes.
Okay. Fellow board members, questions?
The listing doesn't include anything about quantity. I assume it does acknowledge quality, but it seems to me that's a lot of money for furniture.
We are,
Expensive.
it seems like it, but we're actually moving, I think, 20 employees over to that facility. So this
I see.
includes the furniture for providing the workstations, the chairs, any of the meeting locations, and anything of that nature that would need to go into that location.
I can't see the figure right now, but is it 100 and how many
100.
thousand?
180,000.
$180,956.41.
So that's about $9,000 per employee.
I didn't do the math, but yes, sir, that's probably what it is.
I wish
just
my
did the
home
math.
were so well furnished.
Well, it's not 9,000 per employee. That doesn't include the break rooms, and also there are 2 meeting spaces. There are whiteboards that will go in each of the meeting spaces to allow for regular meetings of staff. There's material going into the break rooms, and then office chairs and things of that nature. And the bid, like I mentioned, is almost 100,000 below what the original bid was.
I think those original bids were overestimated.
Well, it was consistent with, the city has been doing some other upfit and improvements at police facilities and fire locations. And the bids that we had were consistent with what was being put in those locations.
Well, I'm losing my internet, but I will move its approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Fleer has made a motion to approve the resolution approving the award of the furniture at Union Station. Do we have a second?
Willie Clark, second.
Mr. Clark, second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Robert Garcia.
Willie
Aye,
Clark,
Jack Fleer.
Lawson Jackson.
Heath King, aye.
All those opposed, like sign. The resolution approving the award The furniture at Union Station project has been approved. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your questions. I'm anxious to see this building. It look very nice, and just hearing you talk about maybe trains coming through there just kind of is exciting. Thank you. Now, moving on to the next resolution, once again at Union Station, the resolution approving the office upfit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
In response to your other requests, we will be glad to schedule a tour to you and any of the board members to actually come out to the facility. I think they did a really good job of upfit and renovations, and a lot of history involved in that building itself. But for this item, this is in addition to, this is the other portion of what's needed in order to move us to that location. When Union Station was initially upfit, it was, they did basically the shell of the building and did not include all the additional walls and improvements to the HVAC system to accommodate the staff going into the building. And so we opened bids on yesterday for a contractor to make those improvements, and the total bid received is $192,000 for them to do that work within 30 days. And so what we're recommending is the approval to award the contract to Frank L. Blum Construction Company for that amount. And did want to share that Frank L. Blum did also provide a bid with a WBE and DBE goal of 25%. One of the things that we found is that we have been a little short in meeting any of our DBE goals. So we were very excited to see that the Blum Construction was able to submit a bid and was successful in being able to include award to a DBE firm and that amount of 25%. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I noticed that you said with completion in 30 days. Is there a particular date that Union Station that you're looking to have it open by?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question. We are anxious to move out of the location we're currently in and move into Union Station by the end of July. So we anticipate having all of our staff in that building by the end of July or early August, provided there are any delays.
Okay.
But if you're interested in touring the building anytime before that, we can definitely schedule it before that.
Okay. Perhaps maybe we can have, I don't know if it's allowable, but maybe we can have one when we get back to having board meetings in person again, perhaps maybe having a board meeting there.
Absolutely.
I just tie it in with a site visit at the same time. Fellow board members, any further questions? Do we have a motion to approve the resolution approving the award, approving the office uplift at Union Station?
Jack Flair, I move its approval.
Dr. Flair, do we have a second?
Willie Clark,
Lawson, okay.
Mr.
Lawson
Clark,
Jack,
second.
Okay,
All those in favor of the resolution approving the office upfit, at Union Station, signify by saying aye. Robert Garcia, aye.
Willie
Jack
Clark,
Flair,
aye.
aye.
Lawson Jackson, aye.
Keith King, aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Resolution approving the office upfit at Union Station has been approved. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, for some of you, we've got some more resolutions coming. So if you have, I know we've gotten a couple of emails with all of them. So if for some reason you have not opened the most current one, this is one of them. Am I correct, Ms. Lawson?
Yes, this is, thank you, Mr. Garcia. This is an additional resolution that was sent today, and I do apologize on behalf of myself, as well as staff for the late notice of this resolution. And the other one that I'm going to bring that'll be after this one. This resolution is for the staff is asking that the board allow us to sign a contract extension and the city of Winston-Salem with services from North State Security. We had originally had a contract, a 3-year contract with them, and then with 3 additional extension years. So last year we had year 2, and this will be the final year, if approved, that we will have a contract agreement with North State, and where we would have to go out for bid next year. We originally had some issues and concerns previously that made us think that we might want to go out for bid this year to see if we can obtain another contract with another security firm. However, due to COVID and in all honesty, I let the time slip up on me. So I apologize on behalf of my staff because I let the time slip. So we actually are asking that we go ahead because of the time, and they have made some improvements. We would like to extend this last year with their current contract not to exceed $165,000 as our previous contract statement for the term of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
Ms. Woodson, you stated at the beginning of this that that there were some concerns with this particular security group. And you need not share them, but have those concerns been met, improved upon, training, etc.?
Yes, we meet with them on a monthly basis. The transportation center staff and myself, we meet with them during the time, just have regular meetings as well as our transit meetings for the band individuals. And we had some concerns with the visibility and their presence at the transportation center to minimize illegal activities and any unauthorized behaviors at the transportation center. And once we met with them and reminded them of their contract agreement, they were very willful, and they did improve. We were definitely pleased with their performance during the COVID-19 pandemic. They assisted us with making sure the social distancing was taking place inside the transportation center as well as outside, helped with blocking off the seats to help with that, making announcements and being more visible. And as I said, with any contractor, there's always some room for improvement. So we're planning to have another meeting with them, and we will continue to meet with them and hold them accountable through the duration of this contract if it's so approved.
Okay. And when they come on board, who is on the WSTA staff? Who's responsible for them reporting to? For instance, if you happen to come in someday and you notice that there's nobody has reported into duty for them, or is there somebody that they have to report to on a day-to-day basis?
Well, they are they're at the transportation center, and Takia Austin is there, as well as Jackie Settle and Tina Carson Wilkins. They all actually play an important role in making sure that the security is doing what they're supposed to do, and frequently let me know or John know when they're not or they're underperforming, and that's brought out in our meetings. And to both Takia and Jackie are present in those meetings on a monthly basis as well. So they kind of manage and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do as the contractor at the transportation center.
Okay.
This is Jack Blair. Does that mean that, like, for example, during this pandemic, where extra precautions have to be taken, like wearing masks and maintaining social distance and those kind of things, do they participate in that, or do you have periodic public announcements reminding people of those regulations?
Yes, sir. They actually help with that, and that's why they have really stepped up in the respect of the pandemic, assisting current staff at the transportation center with enforcing the social distancing. On a regular basis, they are banning the people that are having inappropriate activities at the transportation center. And then we have staff that makes the announcements over the intercom system to actually encourage the social distancing and all of the precautions related to COVID. And security does help with those precautions.
I think that's very good because unfortunately human beings are not very good at following regulations, and we in this country right now have a huge backlash on wearing masks, which for a very vulnerable person like I am, I think that's one of the most important things that people can do.
It definitely is, and it definitely is. And security, if we move forwards with some other measures as it relates, or if the governor mandates mask or anything in his new updates, I'm sure that security will help us to enforce that as well as the staff.
That's good to hear. I
Great
move its
question.
adoption.
Okay, Dr. Fleer has moved for the adoption of the resolution authorizing the contract extension.
This is
Security
Mr. King. I have a
services.
question though.
Oh, okay, Dr. King. I mean, Mr. King.
Oh, you can be doctor. But I think that the issue I have with our security system, security people at the moment, is that they like to group up together, and I see that a lot. There'll be 3 or 4 of them in the back parking lot, which means there's nobody in the front or nobody in the transportation center, and they'll just be standing around talking. So, Ms. Wilson, if you could maybe during y'all's meeting mention that to them, they can cover more space if they are separated instead of all grouped up together. And like I say, I'm next to the transportation center, and I see that quite often. I see it about every day.
Yes, sir. I definitely will make sure I bring that up in the meeting that we're going to have in the next couple of weeks. In addition to, once we get these cameras installed, I'll have access on my computer where I can bring it up and periodically monitor that. And I promise you that I will, to make sure that the current contract and any contract that we have forthcoming will adhere to the contract agreement, because you are correct. If they're spaced out, and this is something that I brought to their attention before, as well as Ms. Austin, they need to separate. Understand they have to communicate and exchange information with shift change and different things like that, but they're grouping up and just having casual conversations periodically, which we will address.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. King. I've seen the same thing when I stopped by the station, and of course, the camera, the proof will be there. So,
yes, sir.
Very much for that question. Prior to that question, we did have an approval by Dr. Fleer. If there's no further questions, do we have a second?
Keith King, I second it.
I'm sorry, did I hear correctly? We do have a second?
Yes, Keith King.
Oh, Mr. King. Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the resolution authorizing a contract extension for security services with said company, North State Security Group, signify by saying aye. Aye, Robert Garcia.
Willie Claude,
Aye, Jack Fleer.
Aye, Lawson Jackson.
Aye, Keith King.
Those opposed, like sign. The resolution authorizing the contract extension for security services has been approved. Thank you, everyone. Next. A resolution awarding purchase orders for sole source vendors.
Yes, sir. And as if you all recall, the board recalls, on last year, we brought the same item up, and this will be brought to the board for approval on an annual basis. Annually, the City of Winston-Salem's purchasing department, as well as myself, will request the board to approve sole source vendors. And this is basically vendors that we have to purchase from that have proprietary inventory that we need as far as equipment, vendors, supplies, parts, any type of repairs that only that specific vendor will do. So there's a list on the second page of the resolution that identifies the portion that WSTA will have on the third page, I'm sorry. This is a list of the sole source vendors, New Flyer, Creative Bus, all of those different Gen Fair, which is GFI. So that's the list that we are asking for, a blanket PO with the city, which means that it could go up to that spend of 680,000, but there'll be individual purchases that would not exceed that total for the year. And this is so that we don't have, it will keep us from having to go through and get continue to come through to the board and get POs. So it's blanket is open to each one of those dollar amounts per vendor.
I'm not seeing a copy of this resolution. Do you have that to put up on the screen?
I do have that put up on the screen. It was actually emailed to you all today. This is one of the 2 additional resolutions that we had to bring to the board today at a late notice. And Tika sent that out in a separate email. And the reason why is because this June, this is the last board meeting for the year. So we have to have this approved for the July 1st fiscal year. And it was an oversight for us.
Right, my screen is just showing the last resolution with North State Security. I don't know what's going on. I'm not seeing what you posted.
Does anybody else have an
Back
issue?
2 pages, Ms. Woodson? Can we go back 2 pages, maybe? Maybe that'll.
Okay, do you see that, Ms. Lawson?
No, it's just not changing on my screen. I don't know let me see if I have
It may be frozen on your end.
Yeah. Okay.
This is Jack Blair. I have a question. You said up to certain amounts. Is that for each individual item or only for the total amount that's listed there?
The individual item numbers, the estimated annual spend for, say, for instance, the first one, Cummins Atlantic, it will be $150,000. So that's per vendor, and the total for the whole blanket PO would be $680,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
I see it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do remember when we put this into play to keep us from any delay when John needs a part, that we have a set of, if it goes over the amount, then they have to come to approval. So
Yes,
that
sir.
give them the autonomy, or Ms. Woodson, you guys the autonomy to make these purchases.
Yes, sir.
Jack
Great
Fleer, I
question.
move its approval.
Dr. Fleer has moved for the approval of the purchase order for sole source vendors. Do we have a second?
Keith King, I
Awesome, Jack.
second it.
Okay.
Mr. King has seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, Robert Garcia.
Willie Clark, aye.
Aye, Jack Fleer.
Lawson Jackson, aye.
Keith King, aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The resolution approving the purchase order for sole source vendors has been approved. We'll move to the next one.
Okay, so that is all of the resolutions.
Oh, I thought we had one more.
Oh, wait a minute. I think we have one more. Sorry. No. That was it.
Okay, I think you said that we had added two
Those
more.
were the
So
two. The two revisions were with the DOT, and then the 2 new ones were North State and the sole source. So yes, sir,
Okay.
that completes our action item.
okay. All righty.
So this right here, Mr. Garcia and the board's members of the board, this is actually the CARF, which is actually from the city of Winston-Salem's Finance, Public Works, and City Council meeting. I added this agenda in here as just a notification that the board, we did not bring the contract agreement for Transdev and the city of Winston-Salem for Transdev's management services to this board as we normally do.
Yeah.
Because of the dollar amount, it exceeded the board's
You can go
approval
and catch
of
your run
$300,000. So this was taken to the city of Winston-Salem Finance Committee, the Public Works Committee, and then the final approval was made on Monday in the city council meeting. So the city of Winston-Salem did adopt and agree to the contract with management services by TransDev for a 2-year extension. So I wanted to make sure that I made the board aware that I'll be here for 2 more years, hopefully. Thanks to the city of Winston-Salem and the DOT. I appreciate that. So I
Thank
wanted to
you,
make
Ms.
sure that we
Woodson.
put this item in here for the board's acknowledgement.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interject.
Certainly.
Donna says thanks to the city of Winston-Salem, but our city council was more than happy to approve the extension based upon the work that Donna Woodson is doing as the general manager of WSTA. Everyone with the city is more than pleased with her performance, her responsiveness, the care that she shows not just for her staff, but to the passengers. And we're excited that she's here and want to see that we can do everything to help make sure that she stays here with us. So I thought I would share that with you. If at any time you have an opportunity to watch any of the last 2 meetings with council, you will see how pleased council has been with the work that she's doing. So I wanted to publicly thank her for all that she's doing and just share that with you all, just to know that she has been very impressive in every part of what she does and the work that she does in her position.
Thank you very much. I couldn't agree with you more. The transition over from Mr. Barnes to Ms. Woodson has been seamless, and Ms. Woodson has added so much to WSTA, and I couldn't agree with you more. Compliments to you, Ms. Woodson, for a job well done, and we're glad to have you all for 2 more years, but maybe more.
Thank you. Thank
Never
you
know.
so much.
Well-deserved accolades. Thank you very much, Tanae.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see.
So we're down to the new business.
Right.
So as a means of awareness as well, under the new business, on the agenda, WSTA has actually put into place a couple of policies to address the COVID-19 pandemic in an effort to minimize the spread and help to keep our employees as well as our passengers safe. So we adopted some of the policies that the city of Winston-Salem has currently put in place on June 1st. I would just want the board to know that we put this policy into place as it relates to the protective face covering, which requires all of WSTA staff to have wear masks. And the only exception is if you are medically cleared to have a mask, as well as for religious reasons. But right now we have not received anything in a negative way from our staff. It's a challenge to keep a face mask on sometimes because it's kind of complicated to breathe, but we're getting used to it because that seems to be our new norm. So the staff here, we are masked up, and when we are not able to have social distancing. Now, when we're in our offices or we're, we have social distance, we're not required to have it, but otherwise we are, and we're providing them to our staff. We are providing them to some of our passengers upon request. And I just wanted the board to be aware of the policy that we have in place as it relates to the face covering policy. And I'll welcome any questions.
I congratulate you on doing it. I think it's very, very important.
Thank you.
And I know it's uncomfortable. I find it that way, but I think it's also critical. Thank you.
I
Yes.
totally agree. Thank you.
Yes. Some masks are easier to wear than others. When you wear that N95 mask, which I have in a clinical setting, hat is off to the people that have to wear them for 8 and 12 hours a day. It is unbelievable.
Yes, and those, the N95 masks are the ones that we we have both. We have the disposable mask, we have the cloth mask. We've been very fortunate. We purchased a lot, and we've also been gifted several masks from vendors such as Hanes Wear and the federal FTA. They NCDOT, I'm sorry, they've sent us a mask as well. But the N95s that we received from TransDev, we have dedicated those to our TransAid drivers because they have more hands-on contact with the passengers. So the TransAid drivers are the ones with the N95s, which are more protective.
Thank you, that's great.
Well, thank you for that. And Ms. Woodson, I noticed we went to new business. There was one item under old business in regards to new board members.
Yes, I apologize for that. Under the old business, I wanted to give you all an update. Ms. Barnes, the mayor's council, sent me an email on Monday or Tuesday, to notify me that due to COVID, they have postponed the adoption of the new members for the WSTA Board, but they plan to do that in the August or September meeting once they reconvene and start the have those meetings again.
Okay.
So just an update on that, because I know all the board members were interested in the new board members coming on. We were on the move and it was on the books, but we had to postpone it. You know, COVID has interrupted a lot of different things, and not that it won't happen, it just delayed.
Right.
But that's anticipated to happen in August or September council meeting.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And I apologize for that oversight.
That's
Still
okay.
trying to work this Zoom.
Now, and out of respect to everyone's time, I know at this particular time we have the staff reports and the marketing reports. Ms. Woodson, I certainly want the opinion of the fellow board members. I know there are times when we do get those and we can review them. If there's any questions, we can pass them along. Or if you think if you think we should review each and every one, we can. Or for the sake of time, the board members. Like to get everyone, or Ms. Woodson, your opinion on that?
No, sir, I'm definitely fine with that. I know that we did send this out a week ago. So if you've in a couple of revisions, but the revisions were to the resolutions. So all the data has remained the same. If you all have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. But if you were able to review them, they speak for themselves. And most of it was COVID related, just some data, some stats to let you know where we were, the CARES Act funding. So I'll entertain any questions, but I'm certainly, in lieu of time, we can move forward if the board so permits.
Fellow board members, are we in agreement with that? And certainly, if there's a question that maybe or that you might have in reviewing some of those reports, by all means.
I have no questions, Jack Fleer.
I have no questions, Keith King.
Willie Clark, no questions.
Yeah, Austin Jackson, no questions.
Okay. With that said, well, Ms. Woodson, we've had quite a full meeting.
We have.
Yes, we have.
Had a lot of action from the board members, and we, the staff at WSTA and DOT, we greatly appreciate all that you do to support WSTA, and we just want to thank you.
Thank you and the staff, and of course the way we've handled it. I think the article in the newspaper today was respectful. Thanks. I'm sure Tina probably had a lot to do with that too. I know Tina will be handling some of it from the marketing standpoint, but because people are so, and rightfully so, very sensitive during this pandemic. And we know that you're doing everything possible for the sake of our staff and our riderships. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
There's no further questions or comments. I'd like to thank everybody that attended today's meeting via our virtual meeting today, fellow board members, those from the city, and of course, all of our members of our WSTA staff. Thank you for everything that you do. Any comments, questions before we?
Go ahead. I have a question, Mrs. Woodson. Have you made a decision on, or has the Accessible Festival in July been canceled?
Yes, ma'am. We have, the city has, all of the planned events have been canceled.
Okay.
We were looking at trying to postpone it until September, but with the recent increases in the numbers, we don't foresee being able to have it this year, to be honest with you. I'm sure that Ms. Carson would have put that in her presentation, but yes, I'm glad you asked that question, because we will have to postpone it and look forward to 2021 being a better year.
Right. The Mayor's Council for Persons with Disabilities, we're waiting. We have canceled the play that we were going to do in celebration of the 30 years of the ADA. But we're trying to put together maybe a parade where people could stay in their cars to commemorate the 30th year, but I'll be in touch with you about that if y'all want to be involved.
Oh, definitely. Please do. And we are, Miss Tina and staff, they're working on even our annual safety and awards ceremony. We're going to do that in May, but that had to be postponed. We looked at having our service awards in celebration in September, but the Boys and Girls Club, they're not allowing any in-person activities there. So that's put that on. So they're coming up with some good ideas to still recognize our employees. So that may coincide with what you're doing. So if you would let us know, we will be more than happy to attend any way we can.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yes, by all means. Well, everyone, I want to wish everyone a great remainder of your week. And if I may leave you with just one other note, in the safety message at the beginning, but also too, one of the things that I hear in my work world is about how this pandemic is affecting a lot of people in the home setting, being confined, maybe with children, maybe with loved ones, maybe as a caregiver. It's getting a little tough out there. So please, if you know of anybody, there's so many resources out there for people to receive assistance, or just a call line to maybe ask some questions, because it is becoming a little tough, and we're seeing a lot of reports out there. So please, if there's anything that we can do for you as a board member and staff and so forth, don't hesitate to call me. I can put you in contact with some people, and it's okay to say, hey, because I personally, I'm talking to birds and squirrels and one chipmunk right now, and I think I've almost reached my limit there. But
I think we could find something for you to do,
them.
Mr. Garcia.
Yeah, I've even named them, so it's getting kind of sad. But enough said. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and for your commitment to this board. And Ms. Woodson, with that said, I'd like this meeting to be adjourned.
Thank you, board members. We appreciate you. You have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Stay safe.